If you please report the meeting. Thank you. Call the board meeting of October 21st, 2021 to order. Allison, please call the roll to ensure that we have a quorum present.
Salinas Fire District.
Present.
City of Mill Valley.
Here.
City of San Rafael.
Here.
City of Larkspur.
Here.
County of Marin.
Here.
Inverness Fire District. Inverness Fire District. Kentfield Fire District.
Here.
Marinwood Community Services District. Marinwood Community Services District. Muir Beach Community Services District.
Here.
Novato Fire District.
Here.
Sleepy Hollow Fire District.
Here.
Southern Marin Fire District.
Here.
Stinson Beach Fire District.
Here.
Town of Corte Madera.
Here.
Town of Fairfax.
Here.
Town of Ross.
Here.
Town of San Anselmo.
Here, and I'm going to be off video because I'm in a tricky area. But I'll have my audio on.
Steve.
A quorum is present with 98% of the membership.
Thanks. Welcome all. Thanks for joining us. I'll entertain any requests to adjust the order of the agenda. And I'm seeing none. Let's move on to item 4. This is the open time for public expression. The public's welcome to address the board at this time on matters not on the agenda and that are within the jurisdiction of the board. Please be advised that pursuant to the government code, the board is not permitted to discuss or take action on any matter not on the agenda. Your comments should be no more than 3 minutes and should be respectful to the community. Please silence your cell phones during the meeting and please mute your microphones when you're not reporting out. And I would like just to note, there's been a recent change signed into law that under Assembly Bill 361, now 3 minutes must elapse for each agenda item. And so even if no one in the public wishes to speak during open time, this item should remain open for 3 minutes before moving on to the next item. So public is your opportunity. It looks like we have good participation. Please, your comments, your questions, your concerns, we just love to hear from you. We've got 3 minutes and I'm warning you that if you don't speak, I'm going to play my ukulele.
That only works if you don't sing too.
Careful what you ask for. So Allison, do we have any public comment? Public, please.
I am looking for any raised hands from our audience members. There's no current raised hands.
And we've had this agenda item open for 1 minute and 30 seconds.
Okay. I'm reaching.
Julie's hand up.
You know, I think, is Megan on the call?
Yes.
Yes. Are we supposed to keep the item open for 3 minutes? Because that's not the advice that we received from our town attorney in the town of Ross.
For open time, you didn't?
No.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Well, I can consult with him between now and then, our next meeting, to find out. But ours has been to, at least for the each agenda item, the full item has to last 3 minutes. So for all the other items, it would be, including staff report and all of that, would cover the 3 minutes. But because there's no staff report with this one, we are just allowing another. I'm not sure how much longer, maybe 30 more seconds to run, but I'll check in with him and see if there's a way that we can avoid the airtime.
Great. Thank you.
Megan. Looks like Steve Burdo. Well, Steve Burdo, you're a board member. You're not the public.
Well, I just wanted to chime in on that just because we all, Megan's our representative at San Anselmo, but at the Ross Valley Fire Department, what we did was we opened up the public comment and then we left it open while we continued to discuss. So we did it at the front end and the back end, and they felt that satisfied it as well.
Yeah, and that meeting actually was the catalyst for our attorney the next night saying that was unnecessary. So Megan, maybe you can talk to our wonderful town attorney and we can get some consensus.
Absolutely. I know
Thank
it's
you.
such a new law. I think everyone's interpreting it in real time. So we're all
Yeah.
trying to figure out exactly how best to put it into practice.
Thanks, board. This is great. So you tune the ukulele, and I'm going to sing. My dog has fleas. That's
We
all for
have hit the
today.
3 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Let's move on to item number 5. Presentation on the Fire Foundry. Chief Jason Weber, I believe that you're with us. I saw you tune in here a moment ago. Yes, hi, Jason. Jason's here to provide a presentation to the board regarding the Fire Foundry. Welcome. We're really looking forward to this. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Bruce. And I'm at an elementary school right now, so I apologize for the background noise. I didn't make it to the desk in time, so I'll make the introduction short, but we've got a fabulous team working on this, great partnerships, and I'll introduce Josh, who will open up the presentation, and I think Mark's going to share his screen, and I'll circle back at the end for the Q&A period. But thanks for having us. We're excited about what we have to offer here.
Thank you, Jason. So, Josh.
Just let me know when to start the presentation, Josh, and I'll start it up.
Yeah, it's fine. We can start with that, and I'll go through the introduction. So, thank you, board, for having us. I'm taking over Chief Weber's little introductory role here. We'll jump into some of the other members of the team as we move forward. So this is what we're calling the program now, the Fire Foundry program. As Chief Weber goes into it a little bit, the origin of the logo has some roots in its birth out of Citrus Foundry at Berkeley, and Thomas Aswell, who's now running a disaster lab at Tarja Center. But also this concept of the foundry as something where you forge raw materials, you work with raw materials to forge them into something, into a product or a finished result. So that's where we really broke this down, and of course the flame and the broken gear to kind of represent the opening and widening out of this whole circle to a broader population in Marin and of course across California. So it's the Fire Innovation Recruitment and Education Program. You can go to the next slide. This is the core development team. We've been working on this for the past year. Of course, Chief Weber, you all know and familiar with. Sofia Martinez, who's equity analyst at the County of Marin. Angel Miner, CEO at Conservation Corps North Bay. Thomas Aswell, who I just mentioned, environmental scientist at Cal and runs the disaster lab. Sukh Singh, who's a researcher at Cal with the disaster lab, and myself, social scientist out of Stanford. So the core idea here is to establish an emerging science and technology savvy wildfire prevention workforce that builds a pipeline towards sustainable wage careers for Marin County community members that don't already have access to sustainable career pathways. Clearly leveraging the massive demand for more fire prevention work in the community and across the county, and using that to fund and drive a workforce development program that builds out that professional capacity in the county. Next slide. This part I don't think I need to go into too much depth for. You are all very familiar with this. This is a part of a presentation we give to a lot of different audiences, some not quite as familiar with the direness of the situation. I think the one piece to connect here is that with everyone's new awareness of this, clearly MWPA is a great example of this in Marin, and someone we'll probably be seeing more of across the state, comes the new job, which is the massive job of arranging the actual work. Now that there's this funding, both at MWPA and at the state, and increasingly other places, finding those to do the actual fire prevention work is the next task. And I think that's where Fire Foundry program really comes into this. Part of that has to do with the fact that we're going to need to broaden out who sees fire-related work and fire careers as an option and as a sustainable career option in their lives in order to be able to meet that demand coming down the pike. Next slide. So part of this is this core idea that, you know, a high quality job like a firefighter job and some of the auxiliary jobs connected to fire work, work like what MWPA is funding now, work in open space districts, city planning authorities, all this sorts of work that relating to better preparing communities for fires, better engaging in fire prevention work, home hardening, defensible space work, all of that helps break the cycle of poverty, helps provide new avenues for families that have been struggling and people that have been struggling to get them towards something that is going to allow them to provide for their family down the line. As most of these are very high quality jobs and specifically oriented towards disadvantaged communities. Those not currently represented in these job forces in Marin County, and those that don't currently have access to these sustainable wage style career options. Can move to the next slide. So it's leveraging three things and doing particular pieces of this puzzle between each of those. One, leveraging the amount of work that needs to be done in fire prevention to provide a living wage for fire clearance work, vegetation management, home hardening, defensible space work in partnership with Conservation Corps North Bay for a crew that's going to be part of our category 1 of our program. So leveraging that work to provide wages for them to do that work while they then earn credits at College of Marin on Fridays. That helps them move towards firefighting certifications. So EMT, EMR, and Firefighter 1, along with a number of other tech certifications. That's where the pathway comes in. And then through that, targeting with help of community partners across Marin County, those disadvantaged communities don't currently have access to sustainable wage careers and aren't currently represented in Marin Fire Services or in auxiliary careers that chart these pathways out of the cycle of poverty. So it's leveraging a lot of amazing partners to make this all happen, including Marin Fire Services, the MWPA, Conservation Corps North Bay, Berkeley, Stanford. We'll get into some of those a little later. Okay, next slide. So Conservation Corps North Bay is a key partner here for the category 1 portion of our program. So that bringing on 12 recruits, 18 to 24 years old, recently post high school with high school degree or GED, to do that fire prevention work, earn a livable wage while doing so at a competitive rate with the private sector contractors and everything else. So this is actually at or below the rates existing for this sorts of fire prevention work right now for 4 days a week. Conservation Corps North Bay is going to be managing that. They have decades of experience doing exactly this type of work with open space districts and parks. Many of you are probably familiar with their work. And they also have deep roots in the community as well. So we're working with Conservation Corps North Bay to manage that crew and then bring those participants on Fridays to College of Marin, where we'll be running the education component and the certifications to get them on their path towards becoming firefighters, or following the other interests that may be born out of this program. Next slide. I believe we have Sophie Martinez online with us, who can cover the wraparound services component of the program.
Awesome. Thank you, Josh, for that introduction. And hello, board. Thank you for having us today. So one of the things that we've identified in building out this program is in order to normalize careers in the fire service for folks that are traditionally underrepresented and are traditionally underfunded and underserved, is we know that we need to embed equity into the program. And one of the ways that we're doing that is by establishing a series of support systems for our participants to tap into. And we're doing that really to imbue a culture of belonging and ultimately retain people as they move into this program and beyond. First and foremost, we know that basic needs must be covered in order to ensure success of people as they begin exploring their career development, and especially into something as intensive as serving in the fire industry. So we are looking to former San Rafael Fire Station 53 as an area where our recruits will be able to be housed, and we'll also be able to provide food services there for them. As we've been developing the program, we also know that mentorship and coaching is going to be absolutely critical in the phasing of folks into a program like this and into the fire service. So we are going to have a component that is that will mentor our recruits, and all of this is going to be culturally informed. We want to make sure that as mentors communicate with our recruits that they are aware of certain traumas that people may face. They are aware of the cultural histories of the people that they're interacting with. And that's really so that we can begin sustaining a culture there that is a little bit transformative. We're really excited to have a behavioral health services component of the program. This is tiny but mighty. We've been in partnership with Health and Human Services. We have a very small curriculum set up that will cover things like navigating stress, how to identify support when a peer might need support and there isn't someone around to really mitigate that. So we're also working on embedding some things on how to navigate a new career while also having to maintain your work and life balance and maybe supporting family as well. As Josh mentioned, we are partnering with a lot of educational organizations, and one of them is College of Marin. And he will go into that a little bit later as well, but there are going to be opportunities for recruits to tap into educational tutoring services. And we're really, really excited about this next component here on career development and life skill planning. We're working with Community Action Marin to get a small curriculum also on how to establish a budget, how to develop yourself as a professional through resume writing, cover letter writing, and also those really important life skill sets for how to make it through an interview if someone's never really done that before in their past. And we are very excited to implement case management services for our recruits. Someone will be there to triage all of the supplemental services that we'll be offering once our recruits have filled out a needs assessment, so that we can be really targeted about the things that they might need, whether that's childcare or support with their family. This way they know exactly who to tap into when they need something, and also we can be there to support them as well as they thrive through this program and really dive into discovering this career trajectory into the fire service. So I'm going to go ahead and pass that along back to Josh.
I believe Thomas Aswell is also online, and given that I did the introduction, if he is comfortable doing the education component, talking about the categories, that might be great. Thomas, are you there?
I am. I apologize. I don't have a ukulele, but I have a daughter. So I'm juggling today. She's starting to talk a lot. I am based at UC Berkeley. I've been there for 20 years. I did my master's degree in education, and I have a lot of experience teaching K through 12, and also at the university level. So in designing this program, one of the things that we identified as a way to success is to provide some additional extra education for the recruits. So give them opportunities to learn a little bit more about fire science, to learn more about field-based ecology, GIS, geographic information systems, tools that they can use as they ascend in the ranks within the fire service and get access to more and more emerging technologies that are now firefighters are having to use. Things like fire modeling programs, Techno Silva, and Zone Haven, which is a new program that's being adopted in the county. So we, in our partnership with College of Marin, we have created 20 to 30 units that are transferable units. So we're aligning these courses with existing community college courses so that the recruits are getting these units and building their resumes and their educational portfolio. So it's a path towards an AAAS or even a bachelor's degree. And as they move through our program or enter the program at these different categories, this early category where they're doing clearance work alongside CCNB or in supervision with CCNB, where they're doing this coursework that's required as a minimum to become a firefighter, or they are in seasonal positions or early full-time positions. It gives them a support to continue their education and complete those degrees. More and more bachelor's degrees are being demanded to move up in the ranks within the fire service. We find that, and we spent 3 hours yesterday with a senior captain who didn't complete their bachelor's degree because they got busy with the job. And I think that this is a really kind of a key part of the program for us. So let me know if I missed something, Josh, but I think just to repeat on the categories, category 1, it's just the way that we kind of compartmentalize the needs of the participants and how we can support them. But category 1 would be, just out of high school, 18 to 25 years old, considering the fire service for the first time, earn while you learn, getting paid while you're doing clearance work, 4 days a week, 4 10-hour days, and then on Fridays is carved out for education days at College of Marin or in the field with both College of Marin instructors and UC Berkeley and Stanford instructors, and others that are in agencies that are experts in things like plant ecology. And then category 2 is enrolled in Firefighter 1 training, which is a 22-unit program, costs $5,000 plus $5,000 for equipment. And so supporting them through that process. And then category 3 would be seasonal employees that also have these 3-month gaps in their employment during the winter, during the off season, where we can provide fellowships where they are fellows within the disaster lab at UC Berkeley, which I run, or they are doing an internship within a startup like Zone Haven and other companies. And they, again, building their resume and building that experience and that breadth of knowledge. And then category 4 would be newly hired. And as part of that role, they are back mentoring into the program and providing information and supports for what it's like to actually be a full-time firefighter. Thank you, and thanks, Kingsley.
So I think we're ready for the next slide. There we go.
There you go.
Alrighty, I'm back, Josh. You carried the ball well, though. I have to say, probably better than I could have. So it was nice to have that introduction. And I think there's a couple highlights I want to make sure we cover. One of those is that the rates that are going to be charged for the vegetation management that will ultimately provide the salaries for these young men and women to participate in the program are competitive with the private market. So we've been able to build the program out with our partnership at CCNB to keep our rates competitive. So you're spending the same amount or less for excellent services being provided. And so the funding for the program inherently is coming from the fuels work. And again, those rates are competitive with that of private industry. I think the other highlight is we can't keep up right now. The private industry can't keep up with the demand of fuels work that needs to be done, whether it's roadside vegetation clearance or other projects. We're also working with Fire Safe Marin to look at home hardening opportunities through a grant program where the individuals that are in our program could participate in home hardening for people. A lot of folks are having trouble finding a contractor that comes out for a small job like replacing vents or doing some of that other work where they could have a natural fit. The county just entered into a $2.2 million 2-year contract with Conservation Corps North Bay for this first pilot, if you will. Other opportunities, and as promised with Measure C, is the aggressive pursuit of grants. So we'll be pursuing grants for the program, for overhead and some of the wraparound services. And there's a great deal of interest from our philanthropic community in participating in this program, and we're going to exercise those opportunities to fill the gap. So that's how the funding's coming together. Obviously, you know, this is great, and the idea of this infrastructure is that it can be replicated. So as these individuals move from phase 1 into phase 2, you know, we'll have 12 more individuals next year behind them. We'll start to grow this organically, and then also allow expansion across other areas of the state that have the same needs and demands. Some of the next steps: January 31st is our target date to have the 12 recruits in orientation and starting both the work piece as well as the educational piece at College of Marin. Applications are opening soon, and we are going to host several orientations for community members to come and find out what the program is about. Those will be well advertised when they are finalized, and our team is open to any questions. And want to thank Mark as the executive officer and your board. Your executive board saw a similar presentation for your support here in making this a reality. It's pretty exciting.
Wonderful, thanks. So that's a wrap then, is that correct? Thank you so much, Josh and team. So board members, questions, please.
I have one.
Barbara, yes, please.
Just a simple one. What is the age range for the recruits?
So the target age is 18 to 25, I believe.
Thank you.
Board members, other questions? Hi, Catherine, please.
This sounds so exciting. I can't believe it, because it fits into our DEI program as well. How are you advertising to get people who would like to go into this? And also, have you talked to the ops, the MWPA ops committee about our agencies looking for providing openings once they're through the program?
So we'll start with the first. We're using our community partners that are well embedded and trusted in the community, and are working with many of the demographics that we're targeting. So they're already trusted partners. That they will be our primary, but we just presented the fire chiefs this morning who have been instrumental in moving this forward collectively. This isn't the Marin County Fire Department or County of Marin. This really is a collective of all agencies, cities, towns, fire agencies. We're in this together. Because of civil service rules, we don't necessarily have a guaranteed job at the end, but we think that the program will provide such a successful avenue for them to build their resume, build their experience, the orientation they need to the culture of the fire service, and being successful as they step in the door. We are confident that they will be successful in securing a sustainable wage career in the fire service. Was that both your questions,
perfect.
Catherine?
Thank you so
All
much.
righty.
And how do I hire them?
Thank Catherine. Let's see. I don't know which order. Gabe and then David, please.
Thank you. Could you just say a little bit more about the selection process?
So I think maybe part of the other team would be the best suited for this, with the application process with CCMB and then ultimately selection. So maybe I'll ask Josh, Suk, Thomas, or Sophie to weigh in.
Sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to. As far as the selection process, it is an open application. It'll be advertised directly to members of these different communities that we're looking to target. In the beginning, it's essentially just filtering them into potentially qualified candidates or CCNB candidates. And what we mean by that is we have a minimum qualification. They have to have a high school diploma, proficient English, just really like the basics, and then as well as the age range. And if they don't fall into that category, they can actually go into CCNB's regular program, where they can get their GED and then qualify for the Fire Foundry program at a later point. For the qualified pool of candidates, they'll be interviewed with a panel that'll include CCNB, members of the Fire Foundry team, Chief Weber, Sophie, and that's how we'll essentially select our 12 first choice, and then probably like 8 to 10 second choice in case the first 12 don't accept.
Great, thank you.
Excellent, thank you. David, please.
Thank you, Bruce. I got a lot of questions and comments, and I'll be mindful about how soon Bruce will bring out the hook. But first of all, I think this is very exciting and well worth it. This is terrific. We had an occasion to use AmeriCorps about 7 or 8 years ago, and they did a fantastic job for a project we had here in Bolinas. I'm really glad to hear the focus on a career ladder, what you've described, and that really gives, to me, that's very positive. I'm wondering, your clients, will they be only public agencies, or will you also be serving private property owners?
We can do both. We're not limited to public
Okay.
agencies. I think we want to make sure that we're in alignment with the work program, the program of work from MWPA, and we're prioritizing our work, collectively across the county. The proposal to the fire chiefs today was for a diversity of work. So we're not on one project for 200 days in a year, that we split it up amongst the 5 zones and try to do 30 plus days in each zone. So giving the recruits opportunities to work on different projects and programs. I think some of the horsepower we have with Stanford and Berkeley teamed up with us is understanding a little deeper and appreciation, not only for the ecology, but the impacts of the work. So starting to measure the effects of the work in a way, and Thomas described earlier, and again, before Bruce gives me the hook, we flew a fire, a control burn 3 times this year with an aircraft that looks at fuel and are able to measure then the quantity or fuel reduction. We can fly it again in the spring to see, how much comes back, natural grasses, but your brush and other things. So there's a lot of really cool stuff happening. And to give them that depth and breadth of experience they're going to need, the idea would be that they're working in all 5 zones.
Nice.
Thank you. Thank you. And Bruce, can I sneak in one last question?
Go, David, go.
Firefighter 1, could you explain? I don't think I quite grasped it. It sounded to me like there was a financial hurdle of $5,000 and then maybe yet another $5,000 to reach that level. Could you just give a little bit of how that works and what has to come out of the pocket of an employee of the Foundry?
So Firefighter 1 program is a semester-long curriculum at typically one of the junior colleges. And they need to have equipment or be able to rent it from the college. They need the uniform, they need the boots. And they also have to, if they're in the full-time program, take a break from work. And for many of our communities that are underserved, underrepresented, underfunded, a break in work may mean that somebody doesn't eat in the household, or that they no longer having housing security or food security. So looking at all of that and making sure we can support it. And this is where we have a lot of interest from our philanthropic partners, is to make sure those wraparound services are covered. But a lot of times those entry level, everything from even getting hired as a seasonal firefighter and buying a uniform and boots may be an obstacle that's unachievable. And we're trying to break those barriers.
That's what I'm really focused on is any barriers to entry that we can knock down. And Bruce, thank you very much for tolerating my.
Thanks for your questions.
I have more, but
I know you do.
Thank you.
Let's Rachel, please.
Thank you. Great program. Really excited to see this going. Couple questions. First one is it rolling entry by any chance, or is it a set program in and complete and then start a new cohort?
So I think our intention is that we'll have 12 recruits, and if we lose any during the course, we'll have to evaluate whether we can pick them up at what point. And then really we want to see these cohorts work through the whole year, and then continue on in that support. And I see Thomas now on the screen. I can't see everybody. So if there's something else, Thomas, you want to add there?
Yeah, I do. So thanks for the question. on the way that I described the categories, the idea is, especially during this pilot year, is we want participants in all of those categories so that we can get that experience in understanding what their needs are and get better at supporting those needs. So you can enter the Fire Foundry program if you just registered for Firefighter 1 training at Santa Rosa College or City College, for example. You already intend to try to become a firefighter, and you could use that support to get through that training, which is hard. You have to score 70% or better in all exams. It's competitive, it's even getting in. And so we can support you on that. Even a seasonal that wants to complete their degree. We met a captain yesterday who has a seasonal who's 3.5 units away from completing a bachelor's degree at UC Santa Cruz, who wasn't going to do it because he's getting so much work. And although he is not necessarily the demographic that we're piloting, he's somebody that we can support to help him complete that degree so his parents can be finally proud of him for having a bachelor's degree. And then even for full-times that just got hired, there's a lot of support that we can provide to them and have them be the host of our technology demonstrations and evaluations, which I haven't talked much about, but I'm glad to add more if you have questions. And we have, literally had our heads down for 6 months talking to each other as a working group. This is kind of our first few times we've looked up and explained this to others. So I really appreciate all these questions, and this is a program that we want to be comprehensive and to work. So any feedback, positive or negative, we'll take it into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. And one more question on that. How do we, I imagine our neighboring communities are going to be looking at us and looking at these recruits and trained once they're fully trained as prizes. And so how do we ensure that they stay within Marin County? Is there any, my reference is sort of like the military where you go in with a school program, you commit 4 years, give back, and then you school, the whole thing. So is there any of that carrot or?
Yeah, if we're successful, they're going to find that this is unique. The culture here in Marin County with the agencies is unique, and they'll come back. But ultimately, our goal for them is a sustainable wage career. And, if we get to 48 recruits, we may not be able to sustain that locally, but it'll certainly be a catalyst. And County Fire's had a seasonal program that now is 130 strong. So even larger than our full-time group. And we regularly provide a feeder program for other agencies, and we're proud of it. I think it's what this could be an example of. And I think it's also the importance of having this crew work in all 5 zones, is they're being introduced to different agencies with different and unique things. But there's no guarantee they'll stay with us other than our charm.
Okay.
I can add one thing to that if you want.
Thanks, Jason.
Josh, go ahead.
Should I? Okay, so I think one of the ways there is a tie to Marin County specifically is probably through the interpersonal connections made, right? And we're going to be partnering with parks and open space and experts across Marin County, both in fire services and related services, to come in and do some of the curriculum, do some of the field-based work with them. So, and also provide some of the mentorship. So those partnerships that they build and those connections they build will probably be some of the sustaining forces as they move into sustainable wage careers. And that, that makes it more lucrative to stay in the place where your mentors and your coaches are based as well, So I think there's some of that less formally.
Thanks, Josh. Let's see. Rachel, you still have your hand up. Dennis, please, and then Julie.
Thanks, Bruce. I just want to say that this is the 3rd or 4th time I've seen this presentation, and it gets more exciting every time I see it. Thank you all for the great work. I guess it's not a question, but I want to point out that these people, these candidates, will get a living wage from day one when they enter the program. I believe that's $21 an hour, and I don't think you mentioned that, but I think that sort of leads back to Rachel's question. You might only be in Marin that you can get the kind of wages that we're going to be offering for these kind of programs and afterwards in the fire service. So we likely will keep them here, I hope. Thank you.
Thanks, Dennis. Julie, please.
maybe Sophie, this question is directed at you. You mentioned a mental health counseling component. And I think given the demographic that we're targeting, coupled with COVID, there's a really acute need for mental health and counseling. So I was hoping that you could just elaborate on that a little bit. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Julie. That's a great question. So some of the components that we're working on fleshing out, it's with behavioral health and recovery services. So there are going to be a series of workshops that our recruits will receive. One of them is on stress management. The other one is on family dynamics and mitigating like work and life balance there. Another one is on kind of substance use and recognizing substance use as perhaps a challenge, and then ultimately peer resilience practices. We want to make sure that if our recruits are going through something in particular and maybe they're not quite feeling comfortable yet to go to someone who is in a position of leadership, like an adult or someone, they can turn to their peer and say, hey, like I'm going through this, I need support. And they can rally together and support one each other and begin establishing that sense of community. So that's what we're thinking of really implementing. And this is really to begin that culture of like, hey, I'm not doing well. This is hard. I need help. So yeah, thanks for your question, Julie.
Thanks, Julie. Thanks, Sophie. Other board members, questions, comments? I have two quick comments. One is that, and this is a question related to benefits, and this is exceedingly difficult and dangerous work. It can be dangerous, subject to cuts, bruises. So in the event of an injury, tell me about the benefits and the consequences for your candidates.
And I think this is one of the huge benefits of having CCMB, who has a lot of experience in this arena with this age group, working with chainsaws and other dangerous tools. They'll have full workers' comp through CCMB, which is included in the overhead costs that we're paying. Additionally, the candidates, and to Supervisor Rodoni's point, will receive a living wage and then also health benefits, which is often dental and health benefits often are a challenge. So all of that will be included.
Thanks. You answered both my questions with me just asking one. Thanks, Jason. Really great. What a fabulous program. So any further questions? This is fantastic. We're really looking forward to participating in this. And so let's go out to the public, please, for any comment on this item.
Your first comment will come. Oh, I apologize. I've unmuted the wrong person. One moment. OFA Marin, your hand was raised for a moment. Did you want to provide public comment?
Yes. Hello, I'm Belle Cole, and I'm with the Ecologically Sound Practices Partnership, which is part of MWPA. And I wanted to express our complete support for this program. I mentioned this to Jason, and we've been in touch with the Board of Supervisors on how valuable it is. And I just wanted to offer the services that we have. We have over 100 scientists and specialists in all areas of fire service and academic work. And also we represent about 40 agencies. You mentioned parks, open space. And we would be happy to either have a seminar to help bring these people together. So we just wanted to make sure that you knew that we were there and supportive, and then one other separate question I have is, how do you relate the projects that you're the components to the occupations in the fire industry? Are they limited? Is it broad? Those are questions that interest me, having looked at this kind of subject before. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill, for your questions and comments and offering support. Any other public comment, please?
I'm looking for any additional raised hands. And there's no further public comment.
Okay, thanks. All back to the board for any further discussion. And I see none. Well, team, Jason and team, this is fantastic. We look forward to working with you here in the future and to this being fully successful. Let's move on to item number 6, which is the executive officer's report. Mark, please report on this item.
So how do I follow that?
You're on, Mark.
So following a recommendation from the executive committee, I'm going to try something different today and have my executive officer report be in the form of a PowerPoint presentation, hopefully to not bore you and have death by PowerPoint, but to get me through it faster. So fire update, the recent fires in Marin, I think we all know that we've had, in one day we had a fire on White's Hill, fire on Hawk Hill, not arson. A lot of times when you have a couple of ignitions on the same day, you're worried about arson. One fire I do want to spend a little time talking about is the Loma fire on the divide between Lucas Valley and Sleepy Hollow. And we thought it might have been on a project that was funded by the MWPA. However, it was not, but it is a part of a strategic plan that has been instituted between the Lucas Valley, Terra Linda, and Sleepy Hollow for several years. And this property owner has been partnering with Sleepy Hollow Fire Protection District, Fire Safe Marin, San Rafael Fire, in creating a strategic fuel break between the Lucas Valley, Terra Linda, and Sleepy Hollow. And he's been combining goat grazing and cattle grazing in that property. In fact, Star Creek Grazing is the company that is doing the grazing for the goat. They unload in his property, start their trek in the spring there. He allows the grass to regrow after the goats have been through. The cattle come in and graze. And he's a very responsible land manager. And he definitely monitors the level of grazing. And I had the opportunity to go up there Tuesday and listen to him talk about his land management principles. And it's phenomenal. He's super intelligent. And this unburned fuel that you see in the background, that's also grazed. And he leaves 4 to 6 inches of grass on the ground afterwards in order to not overgraze. And here's what's remarkable is this is a mid-slope hill or mid-slope road that held under red flag conditions. We virtually never have a mid-slope road hold a running grass fire, let alone in red flag conditions. And on top of helping with fire prevention, he has seen a massive decrease in non-natives between purple star thistle, yellow star thistle, woolly distaff. And so it's just a great example of great land management. On the statewide fire status, there's really only one fire that's ramping down. It's in Santa Barbara County, the Alisol fire. And then the precipitation, the topic that everyone's been talking about, and the rain that we're getting, and the rain that the atmospheric river, you see that word up here, the atmospheric river that's coming next week, and in some places predicting up to 6 to 9 inches of rain. So we're all breathing a sigh of relief, but not necessarily a great thing for the fire perimeters and throughout the state to receive that much rain in that short amount of time. And the thing that I want to discuss about rain is we need it to continue through the winter. A strong bolus of rain now, and then if it stops, we'll be right back at it. That's one part of it. And then the other part is, even if we have continuous rain through the winter, it doesn't mean we're out of our problem. It takes many more years than one rain year to get us out of a drought problem. In fact, historically, after we get a rain bust or a drought busting rain year, that's when we have some of our most critical fire seasons. And that's because we have abundantly dry fuel that hasn't recovered yet with a large crop of fine fuels. Just a little bit of update on some of the stuff that's been going on. We've had one meeting of the strategic ad hoc subcommittee. We have an additional one coming up on the 26th. Looking forward to completing that task. League of California Cities presentation went very well. We also gave a presentation at the Association of Bay Area Governments. I believe I provided a link for that to the boards for your review. Bruce and I had the opportunity to present at the Brink Coalition yesterday. I thought it went really well. Always pleased with the questions. Scott Pinsky did a great job of facilitating the questions and adding a few of his own that I thought were spot on. And then Bruce's Marin voice, I thought was well received, well written, and a shout out to Julie for supporting him on that. I do want to give a little bit of advertisement for a prescribed panel discussion that we're partnering with ESP on November 16th. We also have had our second episode of Wildfire Watch, and I've been meeting with Fire Safe Marin what we could do with a little bit further education when it comes to wildfire behavior awareness for the resident. And then California Fire Safe Council gave Supervisor Rice an award for her role in helping to develop the MWPA as an elected official. And true to form for Supervisor Rice, she did not make it at all about her when she received the award. She made it very much about all of the partnerships that we have going that made the MWPA possible. And speaking of partnerships, Stanford, Bruce and I had a chance to meet with the researcher that is helping write the paper about the development of the MWPA. Very happy with the direction it's going. We think that it will be a useful document for other agencies that wish to become similar to the MWPA. But it also started a second partnership for us. They have a research group that's looking at watershed resiliency, and the connection between wildfire prevention and mitigation and watershed resiliency. They're completely linked. So they're going to be working with us, the North Bay Watershed Association, and other entities to study that relationship. And then finally, I wanted to talk about the Zone Haven rollout. We feel it was very successful. And one of our goals in the rollout was to help increase the number of registrations for Alert Marin. And if you look at this 1 year period, these are spikes of registrations. This spike right here is due to getting data from our utility providers. And then certain events cause more registrations. This spike right here is the fire that was on 101 between Corte Madera and Mill Valley. This spike is the Lassen fire. It's obvious why people would use that as a good reason to start signing up. But this 4-day spike right here is during the Zone Haven rollout. So we did accomplish one of our goals, and that was to help increase the registration. And with that, I'll go to any questions.
Thanks, Mark. Board members, any questions for Mark? Let's see, I see Gabe and Sashi, please.
Great. Mark, thank you so much. Just two brief questions. The Loma fire that you were mentioning, do we have a press kit for that? That sounds like a really good story, you know, and really good messaging. And the second question is on the precipitation. I know this is probably way early, but do you see any new opportunities for controlled burns?
So let's go with number one. Absolutely, we want to take advantage of that opportunity. We were hoping to be able to do a site visit with multiple people, but I think the weather is not going to allow that and being able to get on the roads. So we're going to focus on a smaller group and do a video and have a little walkthrough of the land management that's been going on up there, and then what it meant to the fire and what it meant to the overall community. And I would like to point out that that property owner is doing much to not just help that property, but his community as a whole. So he actually has some work that he does that benefits him, doesn't benefit himself at all. So it's really a great story. Precipitation and controlled burns. It can definitely help for some of the piles that have been put out with the TAM fire crew doing their work. It could, depending on how long the rain, if there's a dry period, it's all about how Mother Nature gives us some sequencing of moisture and dryness, that if we can leverage that. And what it means is that we really need to have projects kind of pre-designed, compliance already done. And then when Mother Nature gives us that opportunity, we can jump on it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gabe. Thank you, Mark. Sashi, please.
Thank you, Mark. Oh, sorry, here's the puppy. On the, I think Gabe, that was an excellent idea about the Loma fire. On the rain, with the amount of drought that we've had, sometimes you don't get the full kind of benefit of the rain with the, you know, how dry the soil is and the condition of that. Can you speak to that a little bit? Because, you know, people will be very excited that there's rain, but, you know, how much are we really going to be able to achieve benefit of that from the fire and fuel side?
Well, at risk of extending beyond my expertise and going into hydrology, one thing I do know is that The soil can't absorb the rain as fast as it is falling or likely to fall. So part of that is good. It's going to go into most likely and hopefully into reservoirs for water storage, but it's not going to do tremendously a lot of good, and can fact check me on this, I bet, a lot of good for filling our aquifers. But when it comes to our vegetation, it's good. I don't know if personally, if some of the vegetation that has been impacted by this drought can recover. And that is my concern.
Yep. I will share that also, having reported on it and convened the ecologists and the UC system, some of the monitoring that when TAM is doing, the satellite imagery, plants breathe through stoma also. They actually breathe in through the leaves, but the leaves that are dead right now, they're not able to breathe anymore. I think we're in an ecological transformation, and there's a lot yet to be seen. And we're counting on UC and one TAM to monitor this stuff, quantify it, and articulate for us what it is that we need to do. So it's a wait and see. The atmospheric river that is coming is disconcerting. It's wonderful and it's disconcerting. The burn landscapes are not going to absorb that water. It's going to pour off. You all remember, anyway, regardless. And I think we'll see a lot of water going in the reservoirs along with a lot of sediment. Bare soil area it's not going to erode, it's going to rill. Anyway, bottom line is it's going to dig down. You're going to see a lot of sediment delivered. It's a blessing and a curse, but give it, or whether we get it, I'd rather have it than not. Tom Finn, please.
I just wanted to echo Mark's comments about the landowner on whose property the Loma fire burned. Sleepy Hollow has funded some of the work on his property, and he's also offered to make available to us his water supplies. He has a tank at the top edge of his property. It would be used only in an emergency to refill fire apparatus if necessary, but he's been extremely generous, and it's been a pleasure to work with him. He's been a great partner.
Thanks, Tom. Board members, any other questions or comments from Mark? All right, let's move to the public for any comments on EO's report.
Looking for any raised hands from our audience members. And there is no public comment.
Okay, thanks. Well, let's move on. Wonderful report, Mark. Thank you so much going on. This is the consent calendar. So item number 7, the opportunity for the public to comment on the consent calendar items will occur prior to the board's discussion of the calendar. The board may approve the entire calendar with one action. As an alternative, items on the calendar may be removed by any board or staff member for separate discussion. I'll now take public comment on the consent calendar, please.
Looking for any raised hands from our audience members. And there is no public comment.
No public comment. So board members, any members wish to pull an item from the consent calendar? And I see none. Let's see. Entertain a motion, please. Motion.
I'll second.
Gabe second. Roll call, please.
Salinas Fire District.
Aye.
City of Mill Valley.
Aye.
City of San Rafael.
Aye.
City of Larkspur.
Aye.
County of Marin.
Aye.
Kentfield Fire District. Kentfield Fire District. I'll go once more for Kentfield Fire District. Okay. Marinwood Community Services District. Muir Beach Community Services District.
Aye.
I'll return to Kentfield Fire District.
Aye.
Thank you. Novato Fire District.
Aye.
Sleepy Hollow Fire District.
Aye.
Southern Marin Fire District.
Aye.
Stinson Beach Fire District.
Aye.
Town of Corte Madera.
Aye.
Town of Fairfax.
Aye.
Town of Ross.
Aye.
Town of San Anselmo.
Aye.
And the motion passes with 100%.
Thank you all. Thank you, board. Let's see, move on to staff reports. MWP Treasurer Alyssa Schiffman, please. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm really a fan of that new assembly bell if it means more ukulele interludes. And the report where we are today, the spending is still low, but we expect that to pick up as the core program picks up speed. And then the only other thing I wanted to point out is that, let's see, the environmental compliance and evacuation study lines are high because we were planning to roll over unused funds from last year. And so we will propose a mid-year budget adjustment to the board in the next month or two.
Thanks, Alyssa.
Yep.
Board members? Rachel, please.
Thank you for the report and update. 2 questions. In terms of the bringing over additional funds for the environmental reports, are we going to go back and look at all of our projects and increase, because those were done based on a percentage? Are we looking at potentially increasing them across the board as a percentage wise or by project?
Yeah, I can cover that one, Elisa. That was
Mark. Thank you.
The budget item that Elisa was discussing is one that was generic for work such as the best management practices, interpreting or reviewing the BMPs we worked with ESP. It's separate than the amounts that we've been applying to each of our projects. But yes, we will absolutely be reviewing that 10% allotment that we put with each of the projects and checking it for validity and seeing if we need to adjust.
Okay. Second question is on the 6150 equipment line for the Caterpillar. Is that a county core or is that a core project across a standard core project? Where's the Caterpillar?
Oh, the Caterpillar. It's in the it's in the equipment line. I'm sorry, I couldn't quite hear your question. Maybe Mark heard it.
Yeah, I can't hear either, Rachel.
I'm sorry, I'm sitting in a hotel room here in Boston. Sorry, the 6150, the equipment line that's fully spent now. Did you?
That was a West Marine Corps project for a front loader for the resource center that supports Bolinas and Stinson Beach, and the purchase has been made.
All right, great, thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Thanks for the clarification. The board members. Let's go to the public, please. Oh, wait, hold on, Catherine.
Just a quick one about line 6600, administrative costs. Have we not billed for it? I mean, have we not been billed for it?
We have, that finance manager at Southern Marin Fire has not billed us for it. We will get around to it. I wanted to revisit the office cubicles, make sure I have all those correct, but we'll do that before December.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Catherine, for your attention to detail. Others, let's move on to the public, please.
Looking for any raised hands from our audience members. And there's no public comment.
Wonderful. Thanks all. Let's move on to the work plan progress update. Anne, I'm looking forward to hearing from you.
Good afternoon, Bruce, members of the board. I'll be giving an update on our work plan implementation, and I'm going to try to keep it brief, but we have a lot going on. So no guarantees. Apologies in advance. So first, MWPA staff and consultants, including Panorama, Sequoia, Far Western, and Vibrant Planet now, has been working closely with our member agencies and partner agencies to facilitate the environmental compliance process for core projects. We're also continuing to work on that manual I've mentioned before for member agencies on environmental compliance processes and procedures, the templates, communication best practices, and a set of project design and implementation features. And in particular, we've been spending a lot of time very recently determining how best to proceed with projects in the coastal zone. Regarding those project design and implementation features, we've been incorporating these types of features into all of our MWPA funded projects as appropriate, wherever there are sensitive resources and project areas potentially, in order to comply with environmental regulations and respond to guidance received to date regarding ecologically sound practices for fire risk reduction projects. Applicable project design and implementation features are incorporated into the projects that were considered today in the consent calendar. We continue to incorporate input from our stakeholders into these practices. So if you've noticed any changes in some of these features, that's probably as a result of conversations that we've had with various stakeholders. We meet with our environmental stakeholders monthly to discuss our work and receive any feedback. We also have been reaching out to our tribal partners regularly and have provided our training materials and project design and implementation features and all of our environmental documents for their information, for their review. In addition, we're kicking off our communication with our regulatory partners with outreach to California Department of Fish and Wildlife staff to share our practices and get their input. And additionally, with the goal of incorporating good science into our approaches for managing vegetation, we've been working with our consultants to prepare white papers referencing peer-reviewed literature to help inform our practices and share findings with the public on key topics as they arise. And currently we're working on white papers related to prescribed herbivory and northern spotted owl. And as I've reported in previous months, MWPA staff, consultants, and legal counsel have been reviewing the recommendations that were developed by the Ecologically Sound Practices Group. And we've now completed that review, and we have a meeting scheduled with members of the ESP to discuss. And then after working with the ESP group on edits and suggestions, we'll schedule a meeting of the Advisory Technical Committee for their review and input and discussion. We've been working with our web developer to create an interactive project map that's located on our new homepage that allows the public to see what projects are happening and where. And then while the pin on the map itself is just an estimation of where the project is planned, clicking on that pin gives the user access to additional project information, project status, environmental documents, and more detailed project maps. And this map and the underlying information will be updated quite frequently to make sure that it remains an up-to-date source of information for the public, and we invite you to explore it. We've been working with the Ecologically Sound Practices Group on a variety of different things, including a site visit hosted by San Rafael Fire Department, which highlighted the role of an MWPA-funded fuel break in containing the fire that took place on San Rafael Hill back in August. And we're still working with the ESP on potential future site visits. And as Mark mentioned previously, a panel discussion on prescribed burning. And then regarding our grant programs, Charlotte Jourdain has been very hard at work, working with member agencies to build a system to receive and process and track home hardening and defensible space grant requests from residents throughout the MWPA service area. Once residents receive an inspection through the Fireside application, they're potentially eligible for grants to help fund the recommendations that are provided through that process. The data from the Defensible Space report populates fields in the grant system so that only actions recommended in the inspection reports are eligible for funding. And this also eliminates the need for tons of manual data entry, at least for those inspections that are created through the Fireside program. Those reports that are generated through other methods will need to be manually entered into the system. And I think we're hoping to get that out and about and available to residents in November. Let's see, in terms of environmental compliance during the project planning, MWPA staff and consultants have continued to work with our member agencies, but also state parks and Marin County Open Space District to work on the environmental analysis for core proposals and incorporate best management practices that those entities are conducting on their own lands. Some of these proposals include vegetation management along evacuation routes and shaded fuel breaks adjacent to communities at risk. Those proposals for which the environmental analysis was completed most recently were on the consent calendar today. In terms of providing support for member agencies during project implementation, MWPA staff and consultants have designed a program to support member agencies during project implementation and support their efforts to comply with local, state, and federal environmental laws, as well as our project design and implementation features. And that, as I've reported previously, includes field trainings for vegetation management crew leads and crew members, online trainings in English and Spanish, and will include additional information related to cultural resources that are potentially in the project area, et cetera. And so far, we've conducted trainings for Central Marin and San Rafael evacuation route work, and we're working on a training for West Marin as well. And that's it for me today. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Anne. Board members, Barbara, I see you have your hand up.
Yes,
And
thank
Julie.
you. Thank you, Anne. Great, sounds great. I have a couple of questions and I'll just list them out and then you can respond if you feel like it. I think it's great that you're building the grant applications into the fireside programs. Are we looking at middle of November, end of November to launch? And it's my understanding those grants will be for low-income seniors and access and functional needs. We have people in Fairfax, just waiting with bated breath for those grants. So that's why I'm asking about that. And then also, I think it's great that you're writing white papers for peer review. Have you considered, rather than just white papers, submitting those to peer review journals? Because I think some of the work that is being done is fairly cutting edge, and they might get broader distribution. So consider that. And one last thing, similar to what Mark just did on his executive officer report, not to add to your workload, which I know is over the top, but it might be a good idea to hit some of those high points in a PowerPoint so it will really direct us. But thank you so much. And if you can answer those few questions, that would be wonderful.
Thanks, Barbara.
Thank you so much. I'm going to point to Mark for additional information on the grant program. He and Charlotte have really been diving into this. It's incredibly complicated because all of the different member agencies are offering different types of grant programs, to different parts of the population, some to anyone regardless of financial need, and some very tailored. So Mark, would you mind?
Well, okay, I don't really need to hear about the member agencies. For example, that's what Fairfax just completed ours. What I'm interested in is the MWPA grant program rather than the member agencies, because that's what we're waiting for.
Yeah, and absolutely. And you're right with it's low income, but not, you don't have to be a senior. So it's low income and those with access and functional needs. And then the home hardening is a matching grant that's available for anybody. And what I do want to add for the MWPA funded grants, for the agencies that are doing defensible space evaluations without the DSI app, we're building a bridge to connect those reports to the grant application.
Okay, and is it mid-November, end of November? Or do you know?
Yeah, good question.
Mid-November is safe, but I can't guarantee.
Okay, thank you. And then the second thing on how we considered peer review journal articles. I think the white papers are great, but we might get a little more play with the peer review journals.
Can we carry that on to another discussion, please? I mean, I think that's a great question, but
okay.
I think if we're generating our own data, then a study and peer review journal article would be an interesting idea.
Thank you.
And for Anne and Mark, please to share with us in response to Barbara's question. Thank you so much. Julie.
Yeah, Anne, I'm sorry, I may have missed this, but could you just explain what Far Western Anthropological Research Group is doing and also Vibrant Planet.
Thank you. Yes.
Sure, absolutely. Far Western is one of the premier consultants in archaeological cultural resources, a very trusted consultant in this arena. And because we do have quite a few cultural resources in Marin County that our local tribes are concerned about, we're working really closely with them and in regular communication with Federated Indians of Great Rancheria, and communicating with them regularly. Oh, and then Vibrant Planet, sorry. So one of the larger projects in our work plan for this year is the Greater Ross Valley Shaded Fuel Break. And that is a really exciting project. It's a very long planning and environmental compliance project at this point. So implementation would take place sometime in the future. So we're working with Panorama, and Vibrant Planet is a subconsultant for Panorama. And they're working on incorporating all of the data from the CWPP and the recent fine scale veg data from Marin, and a number of different really great cutting edge data sources to model fire risk and what potential fuel treatments would do to moderate fire risk, and ecological values as well. So building a model and project design for a shaded fuel break that would take place in that area along the edges of those communities.
Great question, Julia. Was my question also. Gabe, please.
Yeah, thank you, Bruce. And just real quick, what's the budget, do you know, on the grant program? And then secondly, I'm really encouraged by the manual that you're working on for member agencies. And, a lot of it does seem to be in your report around environmental checklists and templating. Can you say about the non-environmental part, like, perhaps, prioritization or optimizing fire prevention or anything, non-environmental? Because I know that's important, but I wasn't sure you covered it. Thank you.
Yeah, let's see. Regarding the manual, much of it really is around the processes for complying with various environmental laws. I think it's a tough one to complete because we're learning as we go, especially in the coastal zone. Trying to implement projects in the coastal zone is incredibly onerous, and we're learning a lot on a daily basis right now around that. And some of the non-environmental content would be around kind of communication, Brown Act materials for some of our other committees, and other things like that. And I'm blanking on some of the other content in that arena. Did you have two questions and I may have forgotten the first?
Yeah, just the budget on the grant program, if you know it.
Oh, I'm going to defer to Mark on that.
250,000 for the D-space, 250,000 for the home hardening. We had hoped to augment the home hardening with $1.8 million. Actually, both grants with $1.8 million from a grant that we were denied. That's why we're going to re-strategize for next fiscal year and go after project monies for each of the 5 geographical areas from grants, and then increase the amount of money that MWPA funding is going towards the grant programs.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gabe. Thanks, Mark. Sasha, please.
Thank you. And that was a great report. And it's every time you're kind of increasing the breadth and depth of the work that we're doing, even kind of beyond all the stuff we're piling on you. So I'm really happy to hear about all these different additions. Wanted to ask a question that Mark and I talked about before the meeting, but just wanted to kind of air it for the public. So there are a number of projects that MWPA funds for member agencies where we're not the lead agency from the CEQA standpoint, but if we're providing all the kind of paperwork and documentation, if it's templated and then they submit it, it's one thing, but if we're providing it and our name is all over it, does that give us any liability or responsibility that could come up later? And maybe that's a Megan or maybe a Sabrina question.
Yeah, well, in terms of CEQA and that process, we could be a lead agency or a responsible agency. And then we've acted as both thus far and will continue to do so. I think we're just looking project by project to see, to check in with member agencies to see how they would like to act and then responding accordingly. Megan, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think as you sort of alluded, there's such a, it's sort of project by project, and it's hard to just give a sweeping idea about what type of documents would be used in each one in terms of, you know, the templates that we're offering. I think they're mostly just meant as guideposts and guidelines, reference materials more than anything else. And in that, with that, that should be safe for us in general, but I can't speak across the board necessarily.
Yeah, I just wanted to just generally, you know, see that we're paying attention to what is our responsibility versus the member agencies that we're just funding from a liability standpoint, but it sounds like you are keeping an eye on that.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. We do have meetings once a week to talk about all the potential legal issues that come up on a daily basis. And so, yeah, this one has come up quite frequently and will probably continue to come up, but yeah, it's a good question.
Great. Other board members, please. Let's move on to the public comment, please.
Looking for any raised hands from our audience members. And there is no public comment.
Okay, thanks. Back to the board. Any further discussion? Thanks, Ann. By the way, you had a great written report, and a lot of what you covered was in the written report. I do think we're going to look at a little bit more efficient. Perhaps you could look towards reporting issues that you have, problems that you're struggling with, places that you need advice from the board. Your written report was very thorough, so I really appreciate it. But thanks very much, and thanks the board for questions. Let's move on to item 9, action items. Let's see, Megan, adoption of resolution to allow for virtual board and standing committee meetings with compliance with AB 31, our brand new favorite thing.
Yes, thank you. As we discussed at the very beginning of the meeting, there's a new legislation that was adopted in the middle of September. It's replaced some of the provisions that were part of the executive orders that came out early in the pandemic that allowed for us to hold virtual meetings. And as you all know, MWPA's board has always met virtually. And the new legislation allows us to continue doing so as long as there's a state of emergency in place and that there are local officials recommending social distancing. Currently, there's a letter that's available from the county department of from the Department of, who sent this one out, the Director of Health and Human Services, that does recommend social distancing, and that local agencies continue to hold virtual meetings. Therefore, we're sort of relying on that at this point, especially given the size of MWPA's board, that there's 17 member agencies, and even the standing committees involve quite a few people that would need to gather. So finding a space that's appropriate is continuing to be a bit of a challenge if we wanted to socially distance without doing it virtually. Therefore, we're recommending, as was the executive committee's recommendation at its last meeting, that the MWPA board and all standing committees continue to meet virtually. The resolution that's attached makes the findings that are required by AB 361 related to that. Basically, that we're relying on the advice of the county official regarding social distancing, and that there's a state of emergency in place. And that, as required by that bill, will continue to bring that back every 30 days for your consideration. So this is just the first go round, and it will appear on consent agenda, assuming that the board adopts it today. And as I think Mark is looking into options for meeting spaces that may allow for us to come together in person. So when that happens, that will be part of the discussion as well. If you have any questions, I'm available for those.
Yeah, thanks, Megan. Recommendation for the executive committee that we just continue and Mark continue to examine options. So board members, questions?
This is Catherine. I just have one quick one. Megan, in other cities and counties who have to declare emergencies, can we do this on the consent calendar, or does it have to be a live vote every time? That's my question.
Oh, going forward, it can be on consent. We just wanted to bring it to your attention this way this time. And then actually the only states of emergency that we can rely on are those issued by the governor. So it wouldn't be related to a local state of emergency. This would be specific to the statewide one.
Thank you, Megan. Catherine, Barbara, please.
Just a quick question, since we don't always meet exactly 30 days, should it be 30 days or shortly thereafter? That's what we've done in other bodies that I sit in.
Okay. So far, if it looks like that will be an issue going forward, we'll look at the calendar and see if that's something we need to deal with one of the specific resolutions. But at least for the coming month, we have the 30-day window that we can meet, and the bill requires it at least every 30 days. So we're trying to stick with that legislation as much as we can.
Okay, well, I guess we're all getting a little different direction. So just so you know, not everybody is saying exactly 30 days. So might be something just to look into as well. Thank you.
Okay, happy to do it. And just to clarify, this would be, the resolution would apply to the board, and the board would be specifying that standing committees would also be following this, this guidance.
Great. Okay, thank you, board. Let's move to the public, please, for any comment on this item.
I'm looking for any raised hands from our audience members. And there's no public comment.
Okay, thank you, Allison. Public. So seeing no more comments, back to the board for discussion and a motion. Looking for then a motion, please.
So moved.
Kate and Julie McMillan, second. Thanks very much.
Bolinas Fire District.
Aye.
City of Mill Valley.
Aye.
City of San Rafael.
Aye.
City of Larkspur.
Aye.
County of Marin.
Aye.
Kentfield Fire District.
Aye.
Muir Beach Community Services District.
Aye.
Nevada Fire District.
Aye.
Sleepy Hollow Fire District.
Aye.
Southern Marin Fire District.
Aye.
Stinson Beach Fire District.
Aye.
Town of Corte Madera.
Aye.
Town of Fairfax.
Aye.
Town of Ross.
Aye.
Town of San Anselmo.
Aye.
And the motion passes with 100%.
Thanks, Allison. Thanks, board. Let's move on to Mark, please. Item 9B, Citizen Oversight Committee recruitment.
Yes, it's that time again. So after we established the COC for their first year of service, they worked hard and decided that a 3-year term per member would be a good balance of maintaining consistency, but also allowing other people or other members of the public to participate as COC members. But since all 9 of them came on at the same time, we had to develop a method to be able to stagger them. So the first term for some of our COC members will be 1 year. For some, it'll be 2 years, and for some, it'll be the full 3 years. We literally drew lots via Zoom. It was an interesting experience of having little popsicle sticks with numbers written on it, but we got through it. We also gave certain members gave members an opportunity to volunteer for a 1 year or a 2 year term. And we did have 3 members who volunteered for a 1 year term. But the thing to remember about it is that just because they volunteered for a 1 year term doesn't mean that they cannot submit for a second term. And the members are allowed to be able to put in for 2 subsequent terms. The staff report lists who had each of the terms, whether it's 1 year, 2 year, or 3 year. But for the sake of today, I'll just cover the 1 year. And that is Larry Chu from Central Marin, Carolyn Longstreth from West Marin, and Stephen Keese from the Civic Group. So that means we need to recruit people from those areas, whether the 2 geographical areas in 1 group. Staff recommends that we start the recruitment in November 1st and at November 30th. Use the same recruitment form that we used last year. We found that to be an effective form. And then we recommend that the president of the board solicit volunteers and then appoint an ad hoc subcommittee for appointment. We would do that in December so that then we can get that wrapped up for the December board meeting, so that after for the January Citizens Oversight Committee member or meeting, we would have the new members in place.
Thank you, Mark. Board members, any questions? I see Julie and Barbara.
Mark, I'm just wondering, how are you going to advertise that positions are open in these three areas?
Through social media, our member agencies, using existing COC members and a Marin IJ ad. And since one of the positions is in West Marin, probably target the Point Reyes Light for an ad.
Great question, Julie. Barbara, please.
Yes, thank you. Given that Larry Chu is the chair and we've only gone through the first year, I understand that they may apply again. I'm wondering if I just read the minutes. I'm not sure that I got the whole breadth of it. Was there any consideration, even though those three members volunteered to do 1 year, that we just reappoint them for another year in a similar fashion to what we did with the president, the vice president, just so that we have consistency for another year? Just wondering if there's any consideration of that. I know it wasn't on the item, but I'd like us to think about that rather than switching people out now.
Thanks, Barbara.
So the chair rotates at the COC every 6 months. So Larry's term would end in December. So it coincides, would be able to coincide. And I do have a suspicion Larry will plan to reapply, but it would be up to the board process to affirm his reappointment.
Okay, well, I'm not just asking about Larry. I'm just saying all three of them. And thank you for that clarification. I just wonder if we should consider just appointing all three of them to another year, just to ensure that we have the consistency and they could help us get through this year.
Thank you, Barbara. Mark?
Well, it would be reappointed. I'm not sure that all three of the members are interested in reapplying, to be honest with you.
Okay, and I just want to comment that having convened the original committee that looked at the applications, I believe that there were 31 applications that wanted to participate in this meeting, and there was a really rich, very deep and very broad set of interests and talent. There are a lot of people that would like to serve on this committee, so that's another consideration. But Barbara, I think your comments are well intended for consistency. And but I just do want to add the part of that is that there is a great interest on the part of the public to serve and participate. Board members, any other comments, questions?
Dennis has his hand up.
I'm sorry. Oh, hey, Dennis. Sorry.
Thank you, Bruce. I was just going to say I'm willing to move this if someone wants to second it. But I do know you need to go to public comment.
Okay, thanks. Public comment, please.
I'm looking for any raised hands from our audience members. And there is no public comment.
Okay, thanks. So let's bring back to the board discussion, really seeking consensus on moving forward with this item as it's been presented to me, rather than a motion and a second and a vote. Is that correct, Megan? Okay, I'm seeing heads are shaking yes. Okay, if I may now just take a moment to ask if there are a handful of board members who would join me in being willing to participate again and select as a selection subcommittee. Would you please raise your hands? Probably need just a handful of us. Barbara, Julie, Dennis, you're scratching your ear, but you better.
No, I just a point of order, Bruce, because it does say approve the recruitment process in the agenda. So again, checking back to Megan, I'd feel more comfortable having an action.
I'm easy whichever way we go.
Yeah, we can do that if you'd like to take a more formal action on this one. It's not necessarily required, but it's fine to do.
I'll second the motion if we want to go that direction.
Thanks, Megan, and thank you, Barbara. Let's see, where are we?
So you would just go ahead and do the roll call, I believe.
Okay, let's do it. Roll call, please.
Salinas Fire District,
Aye.
City of Mill Valley,
Aye.
City of San Rafael, City of Larkspur,
Aye.
County of Marin,
Aye.
Kentfield Fire District,
Aye.
Muir Beach Community Services District,
Aye.
Novato Fire District,
Aye.
Sleepy Hollow Fire District,
Aye.
Southern Marin Fire District,
Aye.
Stinson Beach Fire District,
Aye.
Town of Corte Madera,
Aye.
Town of Fairfax,
Aye.
Town of Ross,
Aye.
Town of San Anselmo.
Aye.
The motion passes with 100%.
Thanks very much. Then if we may go back to my request for board members who are willing to serve on a ad hoc committee, it'd be about an hour and a half meeting to look at these amazing, talented individuals who want to participate in the COC and join me. Barbara, I see you had your hand up. Julie, you have your hand up. Is that your hand up? Steve Berto, I see also. And Catherine, that's excellent. Okay, well, that's a great team. So we will take this responsibility and act on it on your behalf and report back to you. Let's move to committee reports. And I want to say we're at 4:38, and we have. I know that Mark has got a report on the website, so I'm going to ask everyone to pay attention to, clarity and brevity in your reports, please, because I do know that we have folks that have to leave at 5 o'clock. So let's start. Let's see, Fire Safe Marin. Rich, are you with us?
I'm with it. Thanks very much.
Welcome.
Thank you. Okay, sorry. Thank you. I'm here. The reports are pretty self-explanatory, so I'll just take questions in the interest of time.
Questions? Well, I just want to say, Rich, that the work you guys have done is amazing, and I think we're in a transformation on some of your work is transitioning over to the MWPA. Can you and Mark just address what changes are going to occur regarding your legacy of what you've done, what's going to move over to, and what's going to move over? I think it has the chipper program. Is that right?
Mark, you want to take that?
Yes, it was always in the vision that Fire Safe Marin took on the Chipper Day program because we simply didn't have the bandwidth within the organization. And so we'll be looking to transition back or transition the Chipper Days into the MWPA fold starting the calendar year of 2022. So we've been meeting with Rich, Stephen Peters, and the Chipper Day team on the best type of transition plan to bring them back. And we do have the funding built into the full budget to go into the spring of 2022 that would be able to be funded for a contract for Steve Peters and Devin to be in the same type of contract relationship that they have with Fire Safe Marin. Rather, it would just be with the MWPA.
Okay, thanks. Thanks very much. Board members, questions or comments? If I may just again commend Rich, what the work that FSM is doing is incredible. The educational seminars that you're doing, the medium that you're using, people are really impressed, and it's exceptional work. So thank you.
And Gabe has his hand up.
Oh, Gabe.
Yeah, thank you, Bruce. Rich, quick question on your PowerPoint, page 3. I'm thank you for doing a survey. And one of the questions, did you remove all vegetation you wanted to? A third of the people responded with the firm no. Can you say a little bit more about that, or how we might address that response?
Well, I think that's an ongoing thing. This year, one of the things that we did, besides going to each property twice, is we also increased the pile size. So I think what people are really saying around that is not that, oh my gosh, I had more, could you please come back and hit me up right away? It's that they're realizing that they have more work that they like to do in the future, rather than saying they were short at this year and didn't have a chance to put everything out. We were really very good, and I don't see Steve here, but we really bent over backwards this year to pick up everything that people have put out.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rich. Thanks, Gabe. Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you. Let's move on to the Operations Committee, please.
And the Operations Committee, Advisory Technical Committee don't have any report outs due to any meetings, but they have been working closely with Ann and Panorama to get their environmental compliance and also getting project work done on the ground.
Okay, thanks, Mark. So any further question about these reports from the board? Seeing none, let's move to public comment, please. Gabe, your hand is still up. Thank you. Public comment, please, about the committee reports.
I'm looking for any raised hands from our audience members. And there's no public comment.
Okay, thanks all. Thanks for your amazing work. Let's move on to item number 11, which is informational items. In addition to the minutes, annual report, and educational item listed on the agenda, does staff have any informational items?
I have nothing other than just to talk about the annual report and the direction that we went with the annual report. We decided to go with the on-the-ground projects, the things that pointed towards our public in that annual report. There's so much that happened with the MWPA that was about building the MWPA, but we didn't think that the annual report should focus on that. We wanted the focus to be outwards towards the public. And so that's why you see very little about building the MWPA in that. I'm very proud of that document. Pam Kuhn did a phenomenal job. And then all of our member agencies provided so much information to that document. So I would like to solicit some feedback from you as the board on distribution. I've bounced around with, do we just do a total soft distribution? Do we do a combination of a soft distribution and a hard distribution? If we have hard copies that we push out, who would you like to see as part of audiences as far as the receipt of the hard copies? And then Director McMillan gave me a great list of ideas of who to send the soft copies to. So if you have any ideas of mediums that we can send the soft copies to, that would be appreciated as well.
So can I ask if those comments come in written, please, to Mark, and that we can all make those contributions virtually. Let's see, Barbara Kohler, I had you with your hand up.
I think you asked us to send them written, and I've already done that. Thank you. Okay,
thanks very much. Questions or comments, really, Mark? I have just one question, and is that I see that we've done some of the strategic work, and we set out our mission and vision and goals. We have a series of goals, and I know that the ATC and the ops are working on objectives and then specific metrics that we're going to be looking to just demonstrate that we're making progress towards our goals, and then that'll help derive our monitoring. When do you envision the objectives associated with our goals, and then the metrics being ready and then being posted on our annual report? I think it's critical that we step this up and be very specific as to what is it we're trying to achieve and how well we're doing it.
Well, I would anticipate that we for sure will have it in our next annual report. We've had 2 of the meetings so far with Advisory Technical and Operations Committee group in working on the metrics, or excuse me, objectives. They're tackling the objectives first, and then they're going to start tackling the metrics. And if I may, I'm going to screen share the website, because that is a really good segue into that question. And because we don't see the display of our metrics being a once a year item, we would like to see the display of our objectives and metrics to be an ongoing. I have to say that, again, I'm very, very happy with this website. I'm going to give a very quick rundown and invite you all to explore. I'll just give you the ideas and the concepts behind the framework. Pam Kuhn was instrumental, and then we used Polygon's media, and they really exceeded our expectations, not only with the skill and the quality of the product, but the speed in which they did it. Typical for a lot of websites, we have a splash screen that rotates between different images. If you scroll down, this is where you'll see each of our goals. And this is in the future. If you click on a goal, you not only will you see what the goal is, the actual language for the goal, you will see all the projects that are relevant to that goal. And then when we identify the objectives and metrics for each of the goals, this is where you'll see the dashboard for each of those objectives and metrics. And I think it's important to point out that many of the objectives are going to cross different goals as well. Like many of the public education goals will have a crosswalk to the vegetation management goals. If you scroll down, this is where you see the aforementioned map that Ann talked about. You can click on a pin, you'll see what project that is. And if you want to click on project detail, you can get more details. We have set up a community calendar. If you click on calendar, it'll actually bring up a calendar view, or you can click on the item. And if you click on the item, you actually will see we've included the Zoom link to make it easier for our constituents to be able to click into our meetings. More continued information down below. And I just, we have our news page, and I'll show you a different way to get to it real quick. And then each of these icons, these are our member agencies and partner agencies. You click on that, it'll bring you to their website. And the footer down here is the same footer for every page, but it's also duplicated up here at the top for under these menu items. We've made a very complex and information-filled website, but our goal was to make it easy to navigate, because I was at times having a hard time navigating our website before. I'm not going to go down each of these items, but I will point out that if you hit the About MWPA, you can hit all the information there. Annual reports, if you go down there, that's where you can pull up our 2021 annual report. Another way that you can get to our projects, you can again go by goal, or you can click on any of the zones that you want to look at. Click on San Rafael, and you can see which projects are going on in San Rafael. Now, if I click on a project, this is where you start getting some of the more detail, what the status is, what type of project it is, who the lead agency is, any supporting documentation such as this, the notice of exemption. And as we work with the Parks Conservancy and have the fuel management map, this is where that link will exist for that. One thing to note, wherever you are, if you just click on our name, it'll bring you back to the home page. And I think the last page I'll really show you is our record of meetings. We really tuned up this part of it, and we are using what's called an embedded Granicus frame, so that it'll makes it a little bit easier for our staff to be able to do something once. When creating the agenda, it automatically gets posted here once it's released. And then when we get to the point where our residents want to be able to tap into previous meetings and minutes, we are still, as staff, learning how to use the Granicus frame better. It will be a continued work in progress. And then here's links to all of our collaboration. And then the last one is resident info. So it makes it real easy for our residents to come in, tap on resident info. They can do their exemption, get these space reports, pull up when the grant program goes live, sign up for chipper days. And this is a question that we get a lot, is the alerts and evacuations. So we wanted to put all of that information in one easy to get to spot. And with that, I instead of boring you guys with me and you trying to follow what I'm doing on the screen, I'll just invite you all to explore. If you have any feedback, if you find any links that aren't accurate, please email me and we'll take care of it.
Fantastic, Mark and team and the team that put this together is to be commended. This is astounding. Board members, any questions or comments for Mark? Sashi, yay! So we're giving this. Those of us who do that, let's do that. Any questions or comments, please? Rachel and then David, please.
I think it looks great. Who gets the honor of being the webmaster?
You're looking at one of them, and then Pam Kuhn, though, and is as part of our contract for her communications consulting, is doing much of the work as well. Ongoing, but that'll be part of the discussion with the strategic ad hoc subcommittee, is being able to build into our staff someone that can focus on communications. That isn't the executive officer or isn't someone doing other jobs.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Rachel. David, please.
Yes, thank you, Mark. I look forward to traveling through this. Your presentation looks like it has been improved substantially. I'm wondering if there, what others think about also indicating when you when you drop down into a project, making note of what's the source of funds. Is it the core funds or the local funds? Because when I look at that, I keep wondering, scratching my head, where did this, how is this being funded and so forth? So just a thought.
That's an excellent thought. Right now, all of the projects are just the core projects. As we develop the website, then we are going to be adding the local mitigation projects. So absolutely, we'll put it which category it's in, whether it's core or local mitigation or defensible space. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, David. Other board members. Mark, I have a question and comment. Actually, I saw that you have a science and research tab. Who's going to be who's going to make some decision regarding what science and what research goes there? There is really great peer-reviewed science. There's a lot of wacky LA Times and SAC-B stuff that professes to be science and research. So who's going to help you with that?
It'll be mostly MWPA staff with the support of our operations committee and our advisory technical committee.
Okay. Yeah, I want to be clear that it's important that what we post is peer reviewed and not fringe opinion and not peer reviewed science. So it's real important to me, having worked in that realm. So great. I look forward to that, seeing how that gets populated. And I do know that board members often are send to you, and I receive copies of things. So I would wonder if there's also a forum for the publications that we see that are coming out. If we can set up something that sets up a forum for response to or consideration of some of the stuff that we see that is affecting people's opinions, but not necessarily in the right direction. I'm not articulating this very well, but there are articles and anyway, I'm getting to something beyond science and research. There's a whole public facing discussion. Could we consider some way to have some forum for that on our site, because I would like to contribute.
Absolutely, we can explore that.
Okay, thank you.
I see our website as a continued work in progress. I don't think it should ever be considered done.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Mark. Other board members, public, please.
Looking for any raised hands from our audience members. And there's no public comment.
Okay, thanks, Allison, and listening public. Board, bringing back to you for any further discussion. And I'm seeing none. Mark, one word, fantastic. Thank you so much. Item number 12, this is an opportunity for board members to request future agenda items. Any suggestions or requests? Seeing none. Okay. Well, this is October 21st, 2021 at 4:56. It is time to adjourn this meeting. Thanks, board. Thanks, Mark. Thanks, team.
Take care, everybody.
Well done.
Thank you.
Stay dry.
Enjoy the rain.